Humans are unfit for interstellar civilization, Dr. Vexel Th. Orn declared, his tone dripping with certainty. Their minds are bound by primitive mathematics, their technology crude, their societies unstable. To grant them access to the greater galaxy would be an act of recklessness. The statement sent a ripple of murmurs through the gathered representatives of Earth's United Nations. A few bristled at the insult, but many exchanged uneasy glances, uncertain if they could even refute the alien scholar's words. Dr. Evelyn Carter, seated at the far end of the hall, clenched her jaw. She had been waiting for this moment, the first formal assessment of humanity by the Galactic Concordium, the governing body of interstellar civilization. And now, with a few condescending words, Th. Orn had dismissed humanity's entire potential. The alien anthropologist stood tall on the central podium, his elongated frame clad in the flowing dark robes of the Concordium's scientific tribunal. His species, the Threxians, were known for their cold intellect and rigid logic. Their eyes, 6 of them, pale and calculating, scanned the assembly with detached indifference. A UN delegate cleared his throat. Dr. Th. Orn, surely you can see the progress we have made. Our scientific advancements, our space programs. Th. Orn cut him off with a wave of his clawed hand. Progress, yes. But progress alone is meaningless. The question is whether you possess the capacity to contribute to the greater scientific understanding of the universe. And I see no evidence that humans are capable of solving even the most rudimentary galactic equations. The insult sent another round of murmurs through the hall. Evelyn had heard enough. She pushed back her chair and stood. That's an interesting claim, Dr. Th. Orn, she said, her voice carrying across the chamber. But it seems rather convenient. Th. Orn turned his gaze toward her, one of his secondary eyelids flickering in curiosity. And you are? Evelyn Carter. Theoretical physicist. She took a step forward. You say we lack the intelligence to contribute. Yet, we have independently developed quantum mechanics, string theory, and gravitational wave detection, all without assistance from the Concordium. Is that not proof of intellectual capability? Th. Orn tilted his head slightly, as if regarding an insect attempting to argue with him. You misunderstand. Those are impressive achievements for a species at your stage of development. But they are rediscoveries of knowledge that the Concordium mastered eons ago. There is no original insight, no breakthrough. Humanity's greatest scientific minds are only crawling toward what the rest of the galaxy has already grasped. Evelyn's hands clenched into fists. And how, exactly, are we supposed to contribute if we aren't even given access to interstellar knowledge? You withhold information and then ridicule us for not knowing it? The hall fell silent. A few delegates exchanged hopeful glances. Perhaps, finally, someone would push back against the alien scholar's arrogance. Th. Orn exhaled sharply, a gesture that Evelyn guessed was the Threxian equivalent of a sigh. It is not a matter of withholding knowledge. It is about ensuring that civilizations reach enlightenment on their own terms. The Concordium has seen what happens when technology outpaces understanding. It leads to ruin. Your species, with your wars, your internal conflicts, your fragile alliances, would collapse under the weight of true interstellar capability. Evelyn's pulse pounded in her ears. You don't know that. Th. Orn's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. I do. The assessment is final. The Concordium has no need for humanity. With that, he turned away, signaling that his judgment was not up for debate. The hall erupted into a cacophony of frustrated voices. Some delegates shouted in protest, others sagged in resignation. Evelyn, however, wasn't done. She wasn't content to let this be the end of humanity's first contact with the greater galaxy. If they demanded proof of human ingenuity, then she would find a way to give it to them. Her mind was already racing, sifting through the possibilities. The Concordium had scientific achievements they deemed unsolvable, paradoxes that even their finest minds couldn't unravel. If she could crack even one of them, if she could prove that human intellect could match or even surpass theirs, then the argument would be shattered. She took a deep breath, steel settling into her bones. The Concordium thought humanity was too primitive? She would make them regret underestimating her. Evelyn Carter stared at the screen, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. The Th-Car singularity paradox had been labeled unsolvable for centuries, a mathematical specter haunting the greatest minds of the Concordium. But if she was right, if the numbers in front of her truly held the key, then everything the aliens believed about human intelligence was wrong. She wasn't supposed to have access to this information. The Concordium had shared only scraps of their scientific knowledge with Earth, dismissing humans as intellectual toddlers. But Evelyn had spent years piecing together what little data leaked through the cracks. Reports, diplomatic exchanges, intercepted signals, each fragment had contributed to the incomplete puzzle she now faced. The Th-Car paradox described an instability within artificial singularities, a flaw in every known attempt to control gravitational fields for FTL travel. The equation broke down at a critical juncture, making stable warp corridors impossible. It was the reason the Concordium had never mastered instantaneous travel and had instead resigned themselves to slower-than-light jumps. But Evelyn saw something they didn't. A discrepancy in how they handled recursive functions in multidimensional space. The Threxian approach to mathematics was rigid, deterministic. They dismissed quantum uncertainty, believing it introduced chaos rather than insight. They had built a perfect equation on an imperfect foundation. Her mind raced. If she introduced a quantum uncertainty function, bridging two seemingly contradictory variables, then the numbers balanced. The paradox resolved itself. Evelyn grabbed her stylus and scrawled across her tablet, cross-referencing human quantum models with the alien framework. Her heartbeat quickened as she ran the calculations again. The results held. She had done it. She had solved the Th-Car singularity paradox. A discovery like this wouldn't just challenge the Concordium's assumptions, it would upend them. If she was correct, humanity had just leapfrogged past centuries of alien stagnation. The implications went beyond mathematics. This was the key to true FTL travel. Her hands trembled as she saved the data, preparing to send an encrypted message to the scientific community. The world had to see this. Then the screen flickered. The screen flickered. Evelyn's breath caught as a glyph she didn't recognize pulsed for a fraction of a second before vanishing. The text she had typed, her solution to the Th-Car singularity paradox, was gone. Deleted. A chill ran through her as an unsettling realization sank in. Someone was watching. Her hands darted across the keyboard, checking the logs. A silent signal had piggybacked onto her connection the moment she finalized her calculations. The Concordium's networks had responded almost instantly, as if they had been waiting for someone, anyone, to stumble upon the answer. She wasn't supposed to be able to solve this. Her mind snapped to one conclusion. If they had wiped her work, they wouldn't stop there. She had become a problem. And problems in high-stakes interstellar politics didn't get warnings. They disappeared. A sharp knock at her door made her flinch. Too fast. No time for an official response. No time for negotiation. She grabbed her tablet, stuffed a hard drive into her pocket, and moved. The building's fire escape became her exit as she slipped into the cold night air. The streets below were alive with the usual city noise, but Evelyn's world had narrowed to a single realization: she had become a target. She ducked into a side alley, heart hammering in her chest. Whoever had been at her door wouldn't take long to realize she was gone. And if the Concordium wanted to keep their secret, they wouldn't just be sending a diplomatic envoy. Her mind raced. She needed help. Someone who understood what she had just uncovered. But who? No human agency had the clearance or the means to fight an interstellar intelligence war. Then a name surfaced in her thoughts. Dr. Varos. A rogue Threxian physicist, exiled from the Concordium for what they had called ideological corruption. In other words, he had questioned their scientific dogma. He had been one of the few alien voices warning that the Concordium's stranglehold on knowledge would one day be its downfall. If anyone would believe her, it was him. Evelyn pulled out her tablet and, using a secure relay, sent a single encrypted message. I solved the paradox. They know. I need an exit. She barely had time to hit send before a dark shape moved at the alley's entrance. Evelyn dove behind a dumpster as the figure stepped into the dim glow of a streetlight. Not a human. The silhouette was too tall, the posture too still. A Threxian. Not Varos. Someone else. A Concordium enforcer. Her mind snapped into action. There was no reasoning with an enforcer, not once they had been sent to eliminate a threat. She had minutes, maybe seconds, before they confirmed her location. She had to keep moving. Turning sharply, she bolted through the alley's opposite exit, weaving through the streets as she fought the rising panic in her chest. She wasn't just running for her life. She was running with the key to humanity's future. The Concordium's central hub was a masterpiece of alien architecture, massive, seamless, and humming with the silent authority of a civilization that had ruled the stars for millennia. The entire station hung in the void above the galactic core, a fortress of knowledge and control. It was here that the fate of species was decided. It was here that Evelyn Carter would force the galaxy to listen. She adjusted the stolen identification chip in her wristband. Dr. Varos had come through. After days of running, hiding, and narrowly escaping the enforcers sent to erase her, the rogue physicist had smuggled her onto a diplomatic transport bound for the heart of the Concordium. Evelyn stepped into the towering hall of the Galactic Council, her heartbeat steady but quick. The chamber was vast, filled with hundreds of alien representatives, each one belonging to a species that had long accepted the Concordium's rule. The air hummed with whispered discussions and political maneuvering. Then Dr. Vexil Thorn's voice rang out. "This council is convened under the authority of the Concordium's Scientific Tribunal," he announced, his 6 pale eyes scanning the assembly. "We will now address the matter of unauthorized human interference in classified scientific knowledge." Evelyn's stomach tightened. He already knew. She stepped forward before they could control the narrative. "I have solved the Th-Car singularity paradox." A hush fell over the room. Dozens of alien eyes turned toward her, some skeptical, others unreadable. Thorn's mandibles twitched. "You have done nothing of the sort. Humans lack the intellectual framework to comprehend such equations, let alone solve them." Evelyn lifted her tablet, broadcasting her findings into the Council's central holographic display. The glowing symbols of her calculations rotated in midair, the elegant solution shining like a beacon in the dark. The silence became suffocating. Thorn's expression flickered, just for an instant. A crack in his composure. He understood what this meant. A Threxian council member rose from his seat, his voice laced with disbelief. This is impossible." "No," Evelyn said, her voice firm. "It's inevitable." A murmur spread through the hall as delegates examined her work. Some looked furious. Others exchanged wary glances. They knew what this discovery meant, an advancement so fundamental it could redefine interstellar travel. And it had come from a species they had dismissed as primitive. Thorn's hands curled into fists. "This knowledge is dangerous. If humanity were to wield it recklessly, the balance of power could be disrupted." Evelyn finished, staring him down. "Perhaps the real problem isn't that humanity has discovered something new. It's that we weren't supposed to." Thorn's silence was answer enough. The council erupted into debate, some calling for her immediate detention, others demanding an inquiry. But it was too late. The truth was out. The galaxy had seen the proof. And the Concordium would never be able to put it back in the dark. The ship trembled beneath Evelyn's hands, the power of the newly activated FTL drive thrumming through its frame like a heartbeat. Beyond the viewport, the hangar doors were still sliding open, revealing the vast, endless void of space. A void she was about to step into, on humanity's terms, for the first time in history. Alarms screamed throughout the station. The Concordium had mobilized. Security teams poured into the docking bay, weapons raised. Automated turrets swiveled toward her, targeting systems locking onto the ship's hull. The comms flared to life. "Evelyn Carter, power down your engines immediately. This is a direct order from the Concordium High Tribunal." She didn't respond. Another voice cut through the channel, Dr. Vexil Th Orn. Carter, stop this madness. You don't understand what you've done. His tone was no longer condescending. It was something else. Uncertainty. Fear. Evelyn's lips curled into a grim smile. I understand perfectly, she said. She checked the NAV systems. The calculations were solid. The drive was stable. The solution to the Th-Car singularity paradox, the equation the Concordium had abandoned as impossible, was about to propel a human vessel faster than any alien ship had ever traveled. A sharp impact rocked the ship. Magnetic harpoons. The Concordium's last resort to keep her grounded. Her fingers flew over the controls, rerouting power to the inertial dampeners. The ship groaned under the stress, but the thrusters fought back, tearing against the station's grip. A second impact followed, but she was ready. One final override command disengaged the locking clamps, and the ship lurched free. The docking bay filled with a sudden flash as the turrets opened fire. Evelyn jammed the acceleration forward. The ship surged out of the hangar, streaking past the defensive perimeter. Laser blasts grazed the hull, shields flaring in protest. Every warning system screamed at her, but she kept her hand steady, eyes locked on the deep black beyond. Carter, listen to me. Th Orn shouted. You're tampering with forces you don't comprehend. This knowledge, it was never meant to be used. Evelyn let out a breath. Then maybe you should have solved the damn equation yourselves. She punched in the final command. The FTL drive activated. The ship lurched forward, reality bending around it. The stars stretched, warping into elongated lines as the vessel slipped beyond conventional space. The moment was unlike anything humanity had ever experienced, pure, unfiltered acceleration beyond the laws of physics that had once bound them. For the first time in history, a human vessel traveled beyond the limits of known space, not by alien permission, not by imitation, but by human ingenuity alone. Back on the Concordium station, the comms crackled with stunned silence. Then, just before the connection broke, she heard Th Orn's final words. Gods help us all. Evelyn leaned back in her seat, staring into the shifting colors of faster-than-light travel. Humanity had taken its first step. And nothing in the galaxy could stop them now. The ship surged forward. For a fraction of a second, reality twisted around Evelyn Carter. The FTL drive activated, folding space in a way no Concordium vessel had ever achieved. The ship's frame groaned, the pressure of breaking known physics pressing against its structure. Then, silence. The stars outside the viewport no longer streaked in elongated trails like conventional warp travel. Instead, they shimmered, distant yet somehow closer, as if space itself had condensed to accommodate the vessel's passage. It worked. She had done it. Evelyn exhaled slowly, gripping the control panel to steady herself. The Concordium had spent millennia trying to refine their slow, calculated jumps through space. Yet here she was, moving faster than they had ever imagined possible. A flashing light on the console pulled her attention. Incoming transmission. She hesitated before activating it. Dr. Vexil Th Orn's face appeared on the holodisplay. His expression was unreadable, but there was something in his gaze that hadn't been there before. Ah. You broke the threshold, he said quietly. Evelyn smirked. And humanity was supposed to be primitive, remember? He was silent for a moment. You don't realize what you've set in motion, Carter. This isn't just about proving humanity's worth. You've disrupted an equilibrium that has existed for thousands of years. The Concordium's control over knowledge, it was never just about science. It was about power. I figured that out the moment they sent assassins after me. Th Orn leaned forward. The Concordium won't let this stand. The ruling species, the ones who have enforced their technological monopoly, will see this as an act of war. Evelyn's jaw tightened. Then they're about to learn something else about humanity. And what's that? We don't back down. She cut the transmission. The Concordium's fear no longer mattered. Humanity had taken its first step beyond the artificial limits imposed on them. There was no turning back. She adjusted the controls, preparing for the next jump. This wasn't just about escaping the Concordium anymore. This was about the future. A new age had begun. And humanity was ready.